Thank you, Alaskan Corner. At the outset, I want to wish Minister Harris and Minister Collins well in their very important work. We're all aware that with the reopening of schools over the past few weeks has shown that there is a wide understanding of the strain that COVID-19 has caused to the wellness and mental health of our young people and indeed society in general. This strain does not end when one leaves second level, and I would like if the Minister could outline what much needed additional supports will be provided and deployed for students in further and higher education for the coming year. Thank you, Alaskan Corda.
Yeah, I want to thank Deputy Smith for this question, and he's exactly right. There's been an effort by some, not Deputy Smith or I, but there's been an effort by some to try and pit one generation against the other in relation to COVID, whereas the reality is COVID has had a really serious impact on all generations, absolutely including our young people. And I was very moved last night by the primetime package showing all the lost milestones that young people have had in their life as a result of this pandemic. So it is important and right and proper that this government invests in helping students make that transition from school into further or higher education. And really there's four areas that we've tried to invest in. One is the SUSI grant, making sure that the applications are being processed or being turned around. We've received 2,500 more so far, but also making sure that the system is flexible enough to understand that your family's income could have changed suddenly this year as a result of COVID, and that needs to be factored in. And I've been meeting SUSI regularly on that. Secondly is the issue of realising you can't tell a student go and do online learning without making sure that they have access to a laptop. And it might be a family that you mightn't presume that could have difficulty trying to put together the several €100 to secure that. So we've invested €15 million in buying technological devices, laptops and other things for students. They're being divvied out among all the institutions at the moment and will all be there before the new academic year starts. We've doubled the Student Assistance Fund. It's usually around €8 million a year. This year it'll be 16 million. This is a fund that people who, from time to time, if they fall on hard times, a difficulty with a bill, used to have a part-time job, can go to the local access office and draw down that support. So 16 million euro on that. And as I was outlining to Deputy Pringle, we've allocated an additional €5 million to student mental health. 2 million of it that was allocated on budget day for extra spending this year, and 3 million more as part of the July announcement. And again, that's been divided out through the HEA to each individual institution, asking them to focus on hiring more counsellors and psychologists to make sure we have those supports. And we're continuing to keep a watching brief on this. We'll keep working with students' unions, listening to staff, and putting more supports in as the need arises.
Thank you, Alaskan Corner. Thank the Minister for his reply. Minister, as you said, it's not generational. COVID has affected every cohort in society. And you just mentioned SUSI, and my colleague Deputy James O'Connor has a very good question in regard that we need flexibility in regard to some independent students as well. Some people who had to move home and may not have the utility bills now for a certain period. That's an important part of their application process. Minister, it's an unfortunate reality that September and October usually see an increase in referrals for mental health, and it is probably the case that this year that will be impacted further by COVID with the uncertainty that has been created for all generations. The most recent report from the Union of Students of Ireland on mental health found a very big cohort of students suffering from both depression and anxiety. In the current circumstances, the normal safety nets which exist for students have come under strain. Students remote learning to a much higher extent will find it hard to connect with or spend time with friends, and the supports which are available on campus may not be as obvious in the circumstances. So a more proactive approach would be needed to support those students. And maybe, Minister, you could give me confirmation that the supports will become more proactive, and we need to ensure that there's connectivity with the students who will be off campus as well. Thank you, Cora.
Just in relation to the issue of overhauling SUSI, and I'd note our commitment in the programme for government to a fundamental reform to these student support structures, and I hope this is something we can make progress on in the coming period of time. I would say to the Deputy, I think Deputy Smith is entirely correct. We need to be much more visible in terms of students knowing how to access these supports. I'd encourage everybody and every TD in this House to direct people to yourmentalhealth.ie. I'd also point out that for the first time ever, we have a 24/7 text line for people who are experiencing mental health challenges. I do also think, though, we need to talk more about the fact that this pandemic is having an impact on everybody's mental health and well-being, because sometimes students or any of us can feel that we might be the only one feeling that way, and of course that isn't the case. In relation to
Minister, I can assure the Minister that over the years we fought, and we have two very good institutes of further education in Cavan and Monaghan, and I'm very glad to have been associated with the development of both of them, and we'd be glad to welcome you and Minister Collins there whenever suitable. As we're all aware, the class of 2020 have had a very difficult time. They had the uncertainty in regard to leaving cert. Now those people will go to further higher education. Some of them have yet, unfortunately, not got a timetable in regard to how much time they will spend on campus and much will be done by blended learning. So I think at this particular time, those starting out in college for the first time, they have particular challenges. They may not get the on-campus experience, which is part of lifelong learning and particularly part of learning for that age cohort. So, Minister, we must avoid a situation that those students are not left behind who are off campus. And we have to ensure as well that we don't have an increased dropout of students at further higher education due to the particular and additional challenges that faces this particular class. They've gone through a difficult time with the uncertainty due to the leaving cert, and I compliment everybody involved in the department and Minister Foley in dealing with a very, very difficult situation. And it's just that, Minister, I'd like you to ensure that new entrants, that cohort of students, that they are given particular attention and some additional supports to ensure that apart from blended learning, that they're able to blend into college life as much as possible as well. Thank you, Alaskan Corla.
Yeah, look, the Deputy is entirely correct, and I look forward to visiting Cavan and Monaghan with Minister Collins and seeing the two institutions. But the Deputy is right, and this is the point I've been making to the university associations and to the ETBs. You can't really orientate someone into college via Zoom. You know, you need to actually bring them in. Now, in fairness to them, what they are doing is they are positively discriminating, for want of a better phrase, in terms of first-year students and often in terms of fourth-year, final-year students or people who need to do practical classes. So there does need to be that common sense. You know, to get somebody attached to an institution, they need to be able to come in and get a feel for the place. But it is going to be, let's be honest, it is going to be a very different college year. Some of the normal college experiences that perhaps we've all had are not going to be available this year, because we have to keep people, staff and students safe and their communities safe first and foremost. But that shouldn't, just a different experience shouldn't mean a lesser experience. And I think that's the challenge that we have to continue to work with. All first year students have been given start dates, and just the point you made about uncertainty would provide me with an opportunity again to encourage everybody, try and get yourself onto some place this year, whether it's further education, higher education, an apprenticeship, because the world is very uncertain, and perhaps the routine and structure of that could be very helpful as we work our way through what will be a difficult few months.
Thank you, Minister.